Hello and welcome back to another live edition of We're the North Bank, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. If you're watching us on the Chronicles of Aguna YouTube channel, welcome. We're streaming the podcasts on here. We're going to do a few episodes on here so we can show you guys as well what We're the North Bank is all about. As I said, it's the Arsenal podcast for 90 Min. And as always, we've got plenty to discuss. And I'm delighted to be joined by Dan Potts. Dan, welcome back to the show, mate. How you been? How are your holidays?
Yeah, good, man. I only got back today. I went away for a nice weekend break with my parents just to get some sunshine in the UK, nowhere outside or abroad, but back now, mate. And looking forward to chatting. It's been nice not to talk football for a few days, actually, to be honest with you, and just have a bit of a relax, you know what I mean? And then, but I do miss it, man, I must admit. So I'm a bit addicted to it. So back into it now we go.
That's it. And of course, the Premier League season is almost upon us. A few more days and Arsenal will be back in Premier League action, starting off with a trip to newly promoted Fulham at Craven Cottage. Obviously, it's going to be played in an empty stadium, and we're going to come on to talk about that game in detail in a little bit later on in the show. But let's start off by talking about some of the transfer news or lack of news with regards to Arsenal, because it felt like we started the window really, really well. Obviously, we got Willian in. He was someone that we wanted. We got him. We wanted Gabriel. We got him as well. We wanted Danny Ceballos back, and we got him as well. So it's been pretty plain sailing for Arsenal in this transfer window so far. However, there's starting to be, I guess we're starting to hear some noises of dissent from some of the Arsenal fans at the moment, because there is a bit of a fear that we may not be able to land some of our primary targets. The fact that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, despite us saying for weeks now that it's done, has still yet to officially commit his future to Arsenal. So, how are you feeling about it? Or are you one of these people who's at panic stations, or are you feeling a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more confident than some of the others that we will actually get some more business done?
I'm very relaxed, man. I've total trust in Mikel Arteta and Edu. Very early days, mate. Does not stop. Was it shut on the 5th of October? 6th of
That's
October?
right, yep.
Listen, this is early days. This is like the equivalent of us trying to do all of our business in June or July when the normal season happens. It never happens. And this is Arsenal, Harry. We don't spend loads of money like City. We don't buy 6 players in 1 week like Chelsea. We never have. So why people are expecting us to do this now is beyond me. Give Arteta some time. Let him speak to the board. Let him speak to Kroenke and see if they can help him, because he's going to need some help to get some funds, be given some funds. And if he isn't allowed to be given the funds, then we're going to have to look to sell players before we buy. I was talking to a friend of mine last week, and we were talking about transfers, and we were talking about stages. And the stages to start with of stage 1 were, let's see who we can get in quickly. And the answer was Willian. And the answer was Gabriel. Now, I know that it didn't take so quick, and it was weeks that we were linked with him until we got him, but it was pretty much a done deal from the minute he walked into the stadium, from what we're being told. Aubameyang's a different story, but that is still in stage 1, and I do believe that will happen. It's just going to be negotiation on prices, isn't it, and what they can offer him to what he wants. But I'm sure that's pretty much done, because it would have come out by now to say that he's leaving if he wasn't to be staying, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we always go back to those comments that Mikel Arteta has been making recently, where he keeps talking about how confident he is that negotiations are moving in the right way. And given what we know about Mikel Arteta so far, the fact that he seems to be a very good communicator, very good talker, and very confident as well in a lot of the things he says, I highly doubt that he'd be sitting there speaking the way he is speaking about the Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang situation if he had any doubt in his mind about whether we were going to get this deal done. So from that, I take great encouragement. I feel like, there probably are still a few details that need sort of ironing out, but I'm sure they're not deal breakers, if that makes sense. A player that we've been heavily linked with, and just moving on to sort of players that we could potentially see come in, is Thomas Partey. Now, it's been reported throughout this transfer window that he has very much been Arsenal's number 1 transfer target. We've heard that he's rejected a new contract offer from Atletico Madrid, but there are some contradicting reports flying around about this. This is why I want to get sort of your view on it, Dan. Some say that he's rejected it because he's looking for more wages, and others say that he's trying to engineer a move away from Atletico Madrid. Are you confident that Arsenal still have a strong chance of landing Thomas Partey between now and the end of this transfer window?
Very confident, mate. Very, very confident. And the reason I say that is not because he's liking our Twitter quotes or Instagram quotes or his sister or his brother, is it, who's now come on and become friends with all the Arsenal players. That to me is just a load of nonsense and a load of fans getting excited. I do believe this is a player who we can afford and that we can see will build our team into something that we have needed for so many years now as a Patrick Vieira figure. Now, the only way we're going to sign this player is if we sell first. And this is what I'm saying about three stages. The first stage is let's see who we can get in. The second stage is let's see who we can get rid of. And the third stage is let's see who we can get in. They are the three stages. And at the moment, we are in the let's see who we can sell stage because we brought in Willian, we brought in Gabriel, we brought in Danny Ceballos. Now let's look at who we can sell before we can then buy Thomas Partey and another player who I'm sure we'll go on to in a minute plays for Leon. So I believe they're the two main targets and that we are only going to get those if the players now leave, because I believe that we're pretty much done. I actually believe we're quite far ahead and in advanced talks with both of these players. And I think that if we can get rid of the Torreiras and the Guendouzi's and the Socrates and the Chambers and the Kolasinaks of this world, even if it's for 10, 15 million, that is going to give us enough to buy both of these players if we can raise enough funds to get the deals over the line. Because I believe that they both want to come to the club because they're the only two players we've been linked with since day dot. Normally, Arsenal, you know more than me, 15, 16, 17 players all coming to Arsenal. It's not been like that. Danny Ceballos, Willian, Gabriel, Partey, and Asamoah. 5 players. And this have been them 5 players all the time. Yes, Coutinho, that's now dead as soon as Raul left. That's now dead in the water. That won't happen. I believe that we are really, really advanced to trying to sign Thomas Partey. You know, I really believe he will be a fantastic fit. If there's a release clause of 45 million, Arsenal will always try and offer 30 because that's what we do, unfortunately. It is frustrating, but I don't believe that we have the funds there. And at the moment, I'm not so sure why we haven't when I'm looking at other teams around us spending money, but we haven't got it, if it's the truth to be told. So, yes, in answer to your question, Thomas Partey, I believe, would want to come to Arsenal and would be a great fit.
I mean, I feel like, obviously, you mentioned a couple of players there, Symeou and Thomas Partey in particular, 2 players that Arsenal, as you say, are heavily, heavily linked with. For me, though, you know, given that we've just signed that, are looking to bring in both of them. I think that it will be one very much sort of one or the other. You know, we've heard this evening, just before we came on to record, the Lyon president, director of football, Juninho, talking about the fact that Arsenal have made an offer involving Matteo Guendouzi and that Lyon are not interested in that whatsoever. He doesn't fit the profile of midfielder that they're looking for. That's what Juninho said. But he said that there may have been contact going on between the agents. So he didn't completely shut that down, which gives us confidence that there is discussions taking place about this potential move. But just going back to Thomas Partey for a second, if I'm Thomas Partey and I'm hearing all of this stuff about, you know, Arsenal want me, Arsenal want this, Arsenal want that, and then, you know, we're unwilling to meet the release clause, wouldn't that wind you up a little bit as a player? You know, if you're being sold a kind of dream, you know, Arsenal want you, we want you to be part of this project, and then on the other hand, we're not even willing to meet your minimum fee release clause. Wouldn't that wind you up as a player?
I don't think it would wind me up because I've heard what I need to hear, and that's that they want me. And if they want me and they're selling the project to me, then I'm excited. Whatever happens for how much I go for is not my problem. It's my agent's problem. It's my club's problem. It's their Arsenal's problem. It's Atletico Madrid's problem. Simeone has made it clear that Partey is for sale if the release clause is met. So go and meet that release clause, and he's our player. I think it's that simple. I really do. And to not have £45 million in the bank is quite frustrating, because if you look at what other teams are spending and what other teams have got in the bank, then it does frustrate you. But those teams haven't had 4 years now with a Champions League team in the Europa League, and that has clearly skinted us. And we've got players like Ozil and other players on over £100,000 a week that are skinting the club. So I think that if we are financially screwed with the coronavirus as well not helping, then that is clearly what is holding this up. And we've got the business done quickly that we could. with Willian and Gabriel and Ceballos. And I believe, Harry, that those two players will be Arsenal players. I just think it needs to take time. And we've got time. It's not like the window's shutting next week. We've got time for this to get some people out the door because there's a lot of dead wood in this club. We're on 33 players now, so we can only get in 25 of them. So there's a lot of players that need to go. And people say we can't get rid of 8 players in a window. You can. We did it in 2017, 2018. Go and look at the players we sold. They were about 7 or 8 first-team players, including Alexis Sanchez, all the way down to Lucas Perez. We got rid of 8 players that window, and I think that we potentially might have to do that again.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if we could move sort of that volume of players out the door within this transfer window. But I think we also have to prepare ourselves for the fact that that may not happen as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Of course.
And, you know, like just as we talk about building the squad and assembling a side is going to take maybe 2 or 3 windows, so is getting rid of the crap, as you say. You know, it's going to take some time. We've got to move them out. I mean, you seem really, really confident about getting both of these central midfielders in. I mean, I would say that, you know, Granit Xhaka keeps his place in that Arsenal side, and therefore, you know, I think that Arsenal will only be looking at one of them. I genuinely believe that. I think that he's part of the plan, and I think that Mikel Arteta would only look to bring in, given the finances as well. I think in an ideal world, yeah, he'd love to bring in 2 or 3, but given the situation we're in, and the fact that we've just got Danny Ceballos back, and that we still haven't sold Lucas Torreira, and that Matteo Guendouzi may, and I say may because I don't know for sure, be given another opportunity, I think Arsenal will probably just bring the one in. I don't know. It's just, why are you so convinced that Arsenal are going to bring in both?
Okay, I'll answer that and I'll ask you a question after it. So the reason I'm convinced is because I think it's clear Arteta likes both players. I think it's clear the 2 positions we need are defensive midfield and creative midfield. And I think both of those players have those attributes. I think you're right in that we might only get one in terms of how much money we've got. But if you look at the players that we could potentially get rid of that could give us money, like Guendouzi, like Torreira, like Bellerin, they're all going to be sort of between 25 to 30 million if they were to leave. Then that gives you the funds that you need to fund both of those players with the Socrates and the Kolasinaks and these other terrible players that are going to get us between 5 and 10 million pounds. That for me is going to give us a budget of close to 90 to 120 million if you look at the players that we're looking to leave. Now, that would give us the funds to get both of those players. And the question I've got to you is, if you don't believe we're going to get both of them, if Granit Xhaka's getting in the side, that means that you think we're going to get Houssem Aouar over Thomas Partey, does it? Because if Partey is coming, I believe Partey and Ceballos will play in the middle. I don't know that Xhaka would fit with those 2. I might be wrong, but...
No, I see Thomas Partey. I know a lot of people talk about him as a defensive midfield player. I see him as very much a box-to-box midfield player. So I think if you had Granit Xhaka sitting deep, as he does now, basically, in that sort of position where he does kind of drop into that sort of left-sided defensive position at times, which you've seen him do quite a bit lately. And then you've got Thomas Partey next to him who's going to get up and down. I think that gives you a really, really nice balance. I think that if we were to land Thomas Partey and Houssem Aouar, if we were to land Thomas Partey, I think that if we continue playing the midfield that we're playing, in the sense of 2 deep sort of midfield players, 2 in the middle of the park, I think that Danny Ceballos will be the one to miss out. That's just my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like Granit Xhaka, and I don't mean to keep sort of talking about him, but I do really think that his position in the team is safe. I really do believe that.
I think the problem you've got with Granit Xhaka is that he is, at the moment, the best we've got. But there are fans, and you're one of them, Harry, who believes that he is the future of what Arteta wants to do. And it may be that Arteta sees this guy as this fantastic midfielder who we cannot be dropping. And, excuse me, it would suggest that at the moment that is the case because he gets in the first team for Mikel Arteta. He's probably one of the first names on the team sheet in terms of a midfielder. But if we are going to get both of these players, which I think we will, and I stand by it, I still think Danny Ceballos is not the only midfielder to come in because it's clear that he wants more players in that position. I think Granit Xhaka will be on the bench because I think Thomas Partey, Danny Ceballos, and Houssem Aouar, it might not be every game. I'll make that clear. But I think that if you were to pick a best 11 and you asked Arteta honestly, he would say, I need Granit Xhaka, but I don't need him in my first team every week. And I think that if you were to look at the best 11, I think he wants to go to a 4-3-3. He's not going to do that this season because I still don't think it's fair on the defence. So I think that he's going to be looking at a free midfield potentially for the season after, which I think could be those three players I just mentioned. But at the moment, yes, you may see Granit Xhaka playing a lot more than I would personally like him, just because of his lack of athleticism. He picked it up under Arteta and was a better player. As were a lot of them, to be fair. I had to hold my hands up and say that a lot of them were better under Mikel Arteta, which is credit to the manager. But for me, I think that if you're going to be dropping one out of the team, if you were to get Thomas Partey, then I would be dropping Granit Xhaka out of the team. I agree with you. I think he's great in transition, Thomas Partey. He's not just a beast who sits there and mops up. He does a lot more with the ball. But I think him and Ceballos would definitely be great in the middle with Hosam Aouar just in front, personally.
Be interesting to see. Let's hopefully,
Need to
I'd love
first,
it.
though. Your internet's gone, mate, I think.
But I'm trying to be a little bit realistic here and trying to be a little bit sort of, a little bit more. Yeah, I'm trying to be a little bit more calm about it all and a little bit because you talk about that budget that we could potentially have available, but there's a massive but in that. There's a massive if in that. Sorry, and that's if we manage to shift those players out for the prices that we want. And look at someone like Lucas Torreira. We would have probably said at the start of this summer that he's someone that we could have got a bit of money for. But the only offer that's come in is one of a loan with an option to buy at the end of it. So, we thought that Matteo, that's not going to happen either. So it's very much, budgets that we hope to have. But I still think that is all kind of fantasy at the moment. Until it actually happens, I'm not sort of counting my chickens about sort of the amount of money we're going to be able to bring in. Looking ahead to the weekend, obviously we know that there are going to be some players that aren't up to speed in terms of their fitness, this international break as well. I don't know how I feel about it. Is it a benefit because they're getting to go and play competitive matches at a time where pre-season has been cut short, or is it a bit of a hindrance? I don't know. But, I mean, what are you expecting from Arsenal going to Fulham? Are you confident that we'll come away with all 3 points, or are you a little bit concerned?
Well, I think no game's easy, Harry, and I think that's clear, but I can't sit there and lie and say that I'm really worried about this fixture. I think Fulham are a team that went up through Scott Parker doing very similar what Arteta did really at the very start when he came to Arsenal, and that was instill confidence into a team that was dead and buried. And I think that the lack of energy at Fulham was quite clear to see from speaking to some of their fans. And Scott Parker's come in and installed a lot of confidence, and he's given them a bit of belief. And that basically, essentially, has put them into the Premier League because it certainly isn't by quality. I don't think they look at their team and think, wow, they're passing it around amazing. They're a real team that can cause a lot of danger. But they, of course, have some dangerous players in Mitrovic. I've always been a fan of Tom Kearney. I think Knockhart can be really dangerous on the break. But as far as I'm concerned, they're a team that we should be able to easily break down and one that Arteta should be able to use some masterclass against. And I'm expecting us to go away with 3 points. The only thing I will say, which is going to be like this for every team, who is fit, who's going to play, who's been in quarantine, so many questions up in the air. We wanted to try and get a bit of an understanding from what he was going to do from the Liverpool fixture. It looks that he's going to go with 3 at the back for the majority of the season, but is he going to go with 4 at the back? Because we saw him do that against Watford, who we saw as a kind of team that were towards the bottom of the table. So is he going to go with 4 at the back and go 4-3-3? There's going to be quite a few question marks, I think, until that kind of team news comes out. But for me, I think Arteta's seen that the 3 at the back works, and I expect that he'll continue with that. For me, it's going to be about what options he uses, who he sees as fit, who's been training well, and that's all up in the air at the moment. But I'm confident going into this game, 100%.
Do you feel like the fact that certain players' fitness levels are where they are is why we have seemingly made a bit of a U-turn on Rob Holding and letting him go out on loan?
I think with Rob Holding, listen, we've got like 9 defenders now, haven't we? But the problem with them is half of them aren't fit or injured. I think if we're going to get rid of players, which he believed we were going to do in this window, we're going to get rid of them in January. I honestly believe that now. I think we're going to get rid of him in January because Mustafi would be on the transfer list, but he is injured. Rob Holding looks to be going on loan. but we can't afford to get rid of him because he's the only one who's fit. Saliba, young lad, just come into the first team. Gabriel just come out of quarantine training. Chambers still currently injured. We can't afford, but Mari as well, Pablo Mari, still injured. We can't afford to go into the season with just Saliba, Luiz, and Gabriel. And that's basically what we've got at the moment, as well as Rob Holding. So I think that's why Rob Holding's been given that chance. I think you'll probably see Rob Holding go to Newcastle, who, by the way, are signing some half decent players at the moment. I think you'll see that happen, but in January.
Yeah, agreed. I think we'll probably hold fire on letting a couple of those go just until it's a clearer picture of what our situation is. And obviously, we talk about, going into the season without having completed all our business. But equally, we've got the opportunity that if we see that, towards sort of the end of the window, we don't necessarily need those players anymore, or we have managed to bring others in, then it means we've still got a little bit of time to shift people out as well. So as much as we're talking about maybe doing business in terms of incomings later on, we could potentially do some outgoings right at the end of the window as well. So keep an eye out for that. I feel the same going into the Fulham game, pretty confident. Fulham are just one of those nice teams, aren't they, that you go and, a lot of people talk about the Scott Parker factor and that he's added that extra little bit of grit and determination to the side. For me, though, I would still be very disappointed if Arsenal didn't come away from this one with all 3 points. I'm not going to ask for a prediction because it's so hard to do this on the first game of the season because, as we said, particularly this season of all seasons, because we don't know who's fit enough. We don't know, how they're going to come back from international duty. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens with the team. But I'm sure we'll be reacting in great depth to this one on next week's show. That brings us to the end of this brief edition of We're the North Bank, the Arsenal podcast for 90 Min. If you haven't already, subscribe to We're the North Bank on all major podcast stores. You can find it pretty much everywhere now. So do head over, check it out, give us a subscribe, leave us a review on there as well. And if you're watching us on the YouTube video, then smash the like button as well. My thanks to Dan Potts, and we'll be back very, very soon with more. Until next time, take care. Cheers.